Great. I think we've got the recording going. So yeah, welcome everyone to this fortnightly talk to frontline staff session. So yeah, this session is going to look at the sort of housing needs service in Hackney and the broader challenges around housing, which we're all aware of in the borough. And then just to flag the next session, which is in a fortnight today, Ishmael, who's an area housing manager at Hackney, is going to talk about the support available for people who have got access to social housing in Hackney. So yeah, for people who are actually Hackney tenants. So this session is going to be focused on people who haven't got that, who aren't in a tenancy and are in need of housing, which obviously we know is a lot of people in the borough, as it is across London. It's a really sort of severe problem we're all aware of. And yeah, in all of our sort of broader discussions around poverty reduction and the people struggling with the cost of living crisis, we know housing underpins a lot of that, and it comes up in all of our discussions with all of our partners really working in this space. So yeah, firstly, just massive thank you to Genevieve and Josie for coming along today. Always excellent contributors anyway to our sessions, but great to have you here presenting. If people, Genevieve and Josie will kick off and present, but if people along the way want to sort of put in the chat things that they would like to learn more about in terms of the housing situation in Hackney and the support available, maybe Josie and Genevieve can keep an eye on the chat, and Charlie can help bring those questions to the fore once Josie and Genevieve have sort of finished their presentations. So yeah, welcome everyone, and I'm going to stop there and pass over to Josie and Genevieve.
Hello everybody, I'm Genevieve. I'm with it is now the Benefits and Homeless Prevention Service, and joined by my colleague Josie. And we're here today to, what we do mainly in our service is we support homeless applicants into housing, or help them, sometimes it's through a temporary accommodation journey. Sometimes we can help them get into settled accommodation, the private rented sector. And that's what Josie is. She is our lead officer regarding tenancy sustainment for those people that we've been able to support into the private rented sector. She's brilliant at it. She's got so much knowledge on benefits and support, and she's just got a heart for it. So we're really fortunate. She's got a couple of other people that work with her on the team, and she and I have worked together now for about 5 years, and we still like each other. So anyway, so that's Josie. Say hello, Josie. You can't miss Josie. She's here. Yes, she's our lovely purple-haired, pink-haired farmer. So the document you see on the screen right now, really what we did in our division, which is legislation, strategy, and projects, is to support our members in the in the cabinet office and the mayor's office, because as usual, those who scream the loudest think they're going to get attention. And so they will many times go to our members and get them involved in their situation, thinking that talking to a member and making it sound serious enough is the way to a quick solution to their urgent housing problem or challenge. And the message we've been trying to get across for probably even pre-COVID was, the housing register is not the answer, is not the immediate answer to your housing challenges. And because members have a certain procedure they need to go through, instead of, building on their casework, which is typically the largest volume of their casework has to do with usually homelessness, housing, and benefits, is just to give them some guidance on when residents are challenged with housing, what's the best way, because there are procedures in place, and it will speed things up rather than going down the casework route. So what we did was we designed this, what we call a question tree, and it's based on really, where is the resident living now? So we've started this off. I think you've got it on the screen there for me, don't you, John?
Yeah, I'm just trying to do it.
if we look at it, so what we've started there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things that the client could be dealing with. They're living in private rented accommodation. Are they a council tenant? Or are they living in a home provided by a housing association? Are they staying with friends and family? Are they living in temporary accommodation? Do they own their own accommodation? or are they sleeping rough? So what we've done on each page, let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at it on my screen so I can see the whole thing. So I'm now going to look at the next page. Let's say they're living in private rented accommodation. So if we scroll down to that page, what we've got is, what are their key concerns? And what we've come up with is typical questions we hear. So private rented tenants, typically their home is overcrowded. The accommodation is in disrepair. The home is affecting my family's health and well-being, or the rent's no longer affordable. So these are common questions. And so what we've done is give them some guidance. This is for the member to understand the guidance that's important for the tenants to understand before they think that getting a member involved to plead their case is the answer. It's usually not. There are instances where that is appropriate, but usually most of the time it's not. So just as an example, we've put the home is overcrowded. And our answer there, I don't know if you can read it, is, a move to a larger home where there are adults in the household, encouraging them to seek their own private rented accommodation. Often the best option will have to be away from Hackney because of affordability. And then it goes on to a couple of other things. If the house is in disrepair, the landlord is responsible for taking care of disrepair. If the tenant is responsible for the disrepair, they will have to be involved in some sort of payment for it. But if the landlord is being unresponsive, not taking care of the situation, we do refer them to the section at the council, which is the private tenant for private tenants. And this is where they can report a landlord who is not responding or providing. Now, this is not someone who you called yesterday. It's not an emergency and they haven't called you back today. These are from landlords that you've given them plenty or ample time to get back to you and they're not responding. If the home is affecting the family's health and well-being, they need to find out about if it's a disability situation, if there are adaptations that we can support the client to get. Will the landlord allow those adaptations? Because again, the serious shortage of social housing, if they are hoping to be on the register at some point or get into a social housing that offers this, anything with adaptations is even more difficult to obtain right now than social housing, period. The other example we've used here is the rent for my home is no longer affordable. There's a couple of ways that people could look at that. We really want to look at what's affordable for them. Are they maximizing their benefits? Are they in a situation where they've got a temporary loss of income and they may be able to benefit from some support, perhaps from discretionary housing fund, something like that. So this is just a tree to give them some guidance to people so that they understand that a lot of the responsibilities will be up to them to follow some procedures. But obviously, if they are facing homelessness, the bottom blue tab there on the bottom of this page and probably on every subsequent page is that if you're facing homelessness or you have need for advice, a client can approach any council, but at Hackney, you can approach any our housing options and advice service through this link, and you will be given some preliminary advice, whether you are further supported into homelessness prevention by the homeless prevention team. That will be determined by an assessment. You want to add anything in there, Josie?
Sorry, I've been trying to get the thing so people can see it. Not really. I mean, most of our message is around managing expectations, sadly, isn't it? Because of the dire situation that we're in at the moment with housing. So you might feel that a lot of this comes across a bit negatively, but we're not trying to be negative. We're just trying to say what the reality of the situation is. So, but yeah, it's like Genevieve said, there's other routes to go for help sometimes. So, sorry.
Great, thanks, Josie. If you want to scroll down to the, sorry.
If people want to go to the link so they can see it.
Okay, have you put the document in the chat?
Yeah, I put the link in the chat so people can open the document, just because it wasn't coming up big on the screen.
And now that we're sharing it with you, just a comment. This was meant for members and really professionals. Somebody asked if we could share this with residents. It's not like we don't want to share this with them, but it's not meant for that purpose. not a procedural document. It's a general guidance document. So procedures are more detailed on our website. And a lot of the organizations that are with us today have their own ways of supporting clients. Obviously, lots of information on the shelter website, citizens advice, and all the wonderful support groups we have in our community to help people with more procedures, especially if they have more complex needs. But I'll just move along real quickly, if I may. So for council tenants, again, we have a lot of similar concerns. What are their concerns? Overcrowding, disrepair, health and well-being, downsizing. And in all of these areas, this is, council tenants don't fall under benefits and homeless prevention service. We support homeless people into tenancies with our council properties. But many times when they're facing these challenges, they will come through our front door, but mainly they'll go to their member and say, here's what I'm facing. So that's why it's geared like this. So in an overcrowded situation, we encourage them to look at some of the options. And one of the options we talk to them, they need to speak to their housing officer. They should know who their housing officer is, depending on where they're living. There are schemes like Home Swapper. These have quite a bit of a weight for them as well. And there's more about housing moves on our website. We direct them there. We also direct them to Home Finder UK, which is other social properties, but they're typically in the north of England, not in London or near London to where they would be what people think they want to move to, but they are out there. If the accommodation is in disrepair, we give them the link to report repairs for Hackney properties. And it also talks about in emergency situations, if you smell gas, what to do in an emergency situation. Health and well-being, again, if this is disability and you need adaptations, these are things that can be talked, can be identified by occupational therapy service. And this can all be handled within the council housing. I'm drawing a blank. That section of the council. Downsizing, again, we do offer downsizing. If you need to downsize, we do offer incentives for families who are ready to downsize. There is Home Swapper available to these residents also, and there's links to this and a phone number here for further information. Again, here's where Benefits and Homeless Prevention Service will support residents regarding homeless challenges they may face. So they need to contact our housing options and advice. The next page, if you want to scroll down, is regarding housing association tenants, which may or not be with Hackney Housing, but they could be outside. And again, it's the same kind of thing. Overcrowding, disrepair, health and well-being, and downsizing. And this just gives them the links where to go, where to get started. Obviously, if they're not getting the results they need, that's when really a member's involvement may be needed. I'm not going to go through these again, unless you'd like me to, but it's the same kind of thing. And then the next page, if you're living with friends and family, there's a lot more options here. If I'm being kicked, or common questions really, I'm being kicked out by my parents. I'm fleeing domestic violence, antisocial behavior. My landlord's ended my tenancy. I have nowhere to stay tonight. So these are some pretty serious concerns, and we're seeing more and more and more of this, sadly. I think we're getting 60 to 70 families approaching a week. Did I get that number right?
Yeah, it's about that, yeah.
And
might
we have
be more, actually.
It might be more than that. And I think we have up to 70 families waiting that have been made, that are eligible for support, but are waiting for temporary accommodation because we have no place to put them. And we'll go over that briefly. I just wanted you to see this document, what its purpose really is, where to suggest people go. If you're being kicked out by your parents and you're over 18, definitely contact Housing Options and Advice on, the 2929 number. If they're 16 or 17, that belongs to Children and Family Services. If you're under 16, that needs to be done even differently through Childline. Domestic violence. Obviously, if there's an urgent situation and someone's in imminent danger, they need to call the police on 999. They can speak to Housing Options and Advice. We are DAHA approved and accredited. We will support them through the changes that they will follow procedures that way. Now, if a landlord's given them notice to terminate, a couple of things here. If there's somebody we placed in a tenancy and they need some tenancy sustainment, this is where Josie will get involved, her and her team. Josie, you want to talk a little bit about how you get involved with clients that are being given notices to quit?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I come in, actually, if people have been given notices to quit and they come through to us, then we refer them on to Housing Options. Housing Options do the assessment of someone's circumstances to see whether they're eligible for support from the council. There are various things that they have to satisfy. They'll go into a relief period while they're being assessed. We've got several teams that will try and find accommodation for people, and there's also the greenhouse as well, which deals with our single people who are homeless or potentially homeless, and the housing officers, and also what we call the P2P team and the housing supply team will try to find them accommodation, which is no easy thing. If full duty is accepted or there's an emergency, then people will be put into temporary accommodation. As tenancy sustainment, I come in sort of at the tail end of things, where we've found they've presented as homeless or potentially homeless, and we've found them accommodation. And then when they go into the accommodation, part of the deal that we sort of offer to landlords to try and encourage them to allow people to have tenancies is that there will be tenancy support afterwards. So I get involved in all sorts of things with making sure their benefits claim, that their benefits being paid, that they're paying the rent, repairs. I help people with, if people have got mental health issues, I help and support them along, try and sort of, you know, support them in what they need to do. Younger people that have never left home before, I'll do, you know, I'll give them a lot of help and support around, you know, how to manage bills. A lot of times it's referring on to agencies that are more specialised, like debt counselling if needed, that sort of thing. I'll link people up. Laura's on here. I did a good one recently that just came to me ad hoc, actually, where the guy had a stroke, got really depressed, and was basically, the whole house was sort of filled up with cans and takeaway thing. I mean, I was literally wading through cans when I went to visit him. So I got that cleaned up and sorted out, and he wasn't letting people in. The landlord contacted me because he wasn't allowing people access, and there was a leak from his place. And when I sort of coaxed him out and got his trust, and then it turns out that he was just too ashamed to let anyone in the flat. So I managed to get a deep clean done. So I cover a variety of things, and I'm after they've moved in. So, but obviously I link up with all the other services. So, you know, we work together to try and solve problems. Yeah,
you sure do. And also, you know, if somebody we placed, if the landlord wants to raise the rent, it's the end of the fixed term. The sustainment team will get involved and try and negotiate for the landlord not to raise the rent as much as they want to, because a 2-bed was going for $1,580, you know, 2 years ago. Now they want up to $2,000 for it. Obviously, homeless applicants cannot afford it, let alone people who are working. But what we do is try and offer them some more incentive to ask them to keep their rent down. What we're finding is that 10% over the local housing allowance rate is something that we can allow to find to be affordable for our residents. Those who are working and have some income can afford that 10% over LHA, and we'll pay that and trying to get another 2 years, at minimum of 12 months for that resident. And that's very helpful, because usually through this period, the landlord has gotten to know Josie and her team for different questions that may have raised. So there's some trust there, which is very important for us to manage trust, keep communication open with not only our homeless applicants and our tenants, but our landlords as well. They're crucial to maintaining properties, because, as you know, landlords are leaving the market. And even landlords of our temporary accommodation. They are taking back properties left and right because they can, what they're charging for temporary accommodation now is way above the pan-London rates. It's costing ridiculous amounts of money, but what are we going to do? Anyway, so if you want to scroll down one more time for me, and thanks for adding that in, Josie. She's a jewel. You'll love it if you ever get to work with her. If they're living in temporary if the residents living in temporary accommodation, again, overcrowding, disrepair, affecting my well-being, or they've offered private rented accommodation to move them out of temporary accommodation outside of Hackney. And this is scary for a lot of people. And part of the problem with TA is that guests aren't allowed as a matter of course. Because of the way we insure these properties and for the safety of the other residents, we don't allow guests. Sometimes we have unique situations where that makes it ridiculously dangerous for the tenant. I don't say dangerous, but just unsuitable. In rare instances, we will allow, like a brand new mother who is nursing and has no way, she needs help. And sadly, we do have people in temporary accommodation, general needs, who do have mental health needs. And sometimes we may need to allow mental health support into the building, but it has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis and monitored extremely strictly, I'm sad to say. But the thing about being offered outside of Hackney is really the reality of it. We are seeing more and more approaches from those who are leaving NAS accommodation, asylum accommodation, who are now being given their rights to remain, or, they've been granted asylum. And these people are actually more accepting of the fact that they have to leave London. They've been in Hackney for how long now, waiting to get the decision. And they've built up communities, children in school, but there's no place here that they can afford. But they are accepting of the fact that we found a place for them to go. It's going to be outside of Hackney, probably outside of London, but they understand that when they get themselves on their feet again, coming back here is up to them at that point. But what we find now is very far. Right now, temporary accommodation, we're placing people in Peterborough, which is like, where? So it's really challenging and scary for people in TA when we tell them where they have to go. And the sad thing is, if they refuse temporary accommodation and it's suitable for them, because we consider if someone can travel by public transport for 90 minutes to get to work, that's suitable transport. So if someone has a job and says, but I work in Hackney, but we find you something that's 90 minutes by transport, we're going to consider that suitable. If that is refused, they will not be offered any further support of temporary accommodation. They will also lose their rights to join the housing register should we accept a main duty to house them. So it makes it very challenging for the individual to understand that many of these people born and raised in Hackney, but due to the challenges just can't remain. But my point was the asylum seekers seem to be more open to it, even though they've put down roots already. They are finding the moves, and we've got asylum support through Eden Monroe's team in a different division, but they are out there to support asylum seekers, and they're doing a really good job. Let's see, what else? Is that it? Oh, those who are owner occupiers, really, that's not our area, but we do give them advice from our website. Also, they can talk to the Money Hub. They can talk to lease advice. They can talk, and then if they have suitability issues for their property, they can also look for disabled facilities grants. There's probably more on that elsewhere, but we wanted to give the members a place to direct them. And then our rough sleepers, and we have a very dedicated, hardworking outreach team who are working constantly to support our rough sleepers. But if you see someone sleeping rough, you do need to report them to StreetLink, who has recently, in the last 6 months, changed their website. So rough sleepers can refer themselves as well as being referred by somebody else. That's why it says, I think someone is sleeping rough, or I am sleeping rough. But if they think they may be sleeping rough, they do need to contact us. We have out of hours numbers. so that they can get a record of who they are and how to contact them, try and set up an assessment. If they're under 18, again, Children and Family Services, multi-agency safeguarding, those are places that need to be contacted. So these are the quickest routes for those in various stages of housing challenge. So again, this tool, if it's a help to you, it's sort of an overview of where to get people started on their way. Many of you may already know this, but again, it's not to hand off to the client. I mean, it's not like they can't see it, like I said, but it really is more for the professional. So again, as you know, we are having a very difficult time securing housing. The local housing allowance rates are going up come April. They have now been published. They're going up about 60 to 80 pounds or so per thing is from what I'm seeing. But that's all well and good, but what it's going to really hurt those that are benefit capped. It's just making it even more impossible. And since the allowances, the living allowances have also gone up, it's leaving less and less to pay money to pay rent. So it's not really such a great, some will benefit, true, but not many. And so the reality is people need to, we all have, trying to figure out where to live, how to live affordably. Many times it's a budget issue. Some of us just don't look at our bank, don't know what we're spending our money on. And to help people with budget advice, it's best to sit and have a chat with an individual. Look, do you know where you're spending your money? Is there a way, that person has to decide what their priorities are. But once they've had a look at it, sometimes they don't realize how much is being spent on this certain group of things or that certain group of things. And is there support out there for them? Are there discretionary funds? Are there grants available? Is there a medical situation that requires a medical assessment? The Money Hub team has some very specific support for those who need personal independence payments. They know about this extremely well and are very successful in supporting people with their PIP claims, personal independence claims, as well as challenging negative decisions. We hear really good stories every day. The sad thing is we may not be receiving the household support fund next year, which we received as well as our discretionary housing fund to support people who were already on housing benefit or universal credit. So if we don't have that discretionary funding as well, it's just going to make it even less money we have available to support clients. But what we are finding is that discretionary housing payments, those people who are willing to go on some of the journey themselves, what they'll advise them is, say you're in rent arrears, and we'll say, can you afford to, they'll discuss what's affordable. All right, if you can meet this plan for 90 days, we will match whatever you were able to accomplish in that 90-day period. And each time you do that, they have been able to come in and match clients with what they paid. Because unfortunately, if you just give the money to people, what we've seen in the past is they remain on DHP, which is not what it's for. And because of the higher level of needs for people for these kinds of funds, we're having to be a little bit more prescriptive about what circumstances we'll accept as a basis to pay these monies out. But we're also, once we're talking to these people, finding that they are not claiming the maximum benefits, especially when it comes to PIP, to pension credits. And the other thing that's coming up is conditionality on working next year for benefits. For those who are going to continue to receive universal credit, once their child reaches 1 year old, they will be expected to search for work a minimum period of time every week. And once the child reaches 3, they will be required to spend 30 hours a week seeking employment. This is for the main caregiver. So, and if they don't, they will start receiving sanctions on their benefits. This is another thing we need to start preparing people for, as well as the migration onto universal credit, which is happening now. Those with tax credits are the first group, but we are seeing more and more people, those who received the letter that they are being notified that they will be migrated onto universal credit. It's a managed migration. will be given a 90-day window where if the universal credit ends up being less than what they were receiving on legacy benefit, universal credit will top up the difference in that 90-day period. So that's only in a managed migration situation, not for someone who had a change of circumstances, moved out of borough, and is no longer eligible for housing benefit, must now claim UC. That's a change of circs, and they are not managed migration. They will not get that top up for that period of time. So a few things that are changing we all need to be aware of. It's listening to our residents, making sure they understand what their responsibilities are. Any ways we can help them, we will. We are working together with our partners in adult social care, children in need. In our medical teams, we have embedded social workers to work with our TA residents. We are reaching out to our community to make sure we're all telling the same story, because as Josie mentioned earlier, managed expectations so often are the key. You hear what you need to face early enough in your journey, it makes it a little less shocking, let's say, or maybe easier to plan your journey if you know what may be coming. So I've given you all that lovely information.
Well done, Genevieve. You've done the whole presentation. I've just been listening.
Again, please, once I get started.
No, it's good. Oh, thank you.
Anybody have any questions for us? Charlie.
I was just going to echo Ella Ritchie's question in the chat, but I can see that she's raised her hand, so I'll let Ella come in.
Hi, I just wanted to know about disabled children. So I work for the local offer, and we have to describe our housing offer for disabled children as a statutory duty, and I've really struggled to find housing information that's relevant to parents and carers of disabled children and young people who may be disabled. And if people are being made homeless, it's less likely that a parent of a disabled child is going to make that child homeless.
No, you're right.
Their living situation may be really, really unsuitable. I've had brief conversations before about possibly a category of being homeless from home, but I don't know what happened to that conversation. And I don't really know how to advise people that are asking me questions about that.
Well, this is sort of a dual prong, because disabled children, obviously, I've just posted on the website are the up ratings for benefit relief and support to children with families with disabled children, and what that benefit support would be. But obviously, if they are facing homelessness because of the condition of the property, is that what you're talking about?
Sometimes it's the condition of the property, or the child's needs have really outstripped what the family thought might be.
Well, that's
yeah.
And many times, children are on a specific support program here in Hackney. So depending on where they are, if they are currently,
a specific housing support program, or
when they have they've already got a support worker. They've already had their occupational therapist establish what the needs of the child are. Is it autism? Is it they need a separate bedroom? Is it a medical disability where they're in a wheelchair and they need lifted level access with a wet room for a shower? Depending on their needs and where they are in their journey. If they are being made homeless, they can apply for homelessness, but then they will be accepted with a main duty, and they'll be able to apply to the housing register. But again, sorry.
And would they be given priority? Because obviously for those disabled young people,
yes, they are given priority.
Live in Hackney, so that they've got a support network around them.
That's just it. Obviously, social housing is only Hackney properties. The problem is the wait list is ridiculous. Yeah. Even if they're priority, even if we have a judicial review and the judge says you must place this family, okay, fine, but I don't have any place to put them. And that's the really sad and challenging part. It's letting people know that, yes, you will apply. Yes, you will be given priority. But the wait is still going to make your life extremely challenging if that is the problem in your home right now.
And so where's the best public-facing information that we can refer
to? Our website has it.
Can you put the link in the chat?
Yeah, let me look it up for you.
The disability bit. Thank you.
Yeah, as Genevieve said, I mean, yeah, it's difficult working in our field at the moment because we're naturally people that want to help, and we even more want to help the people we can see where the greatest need is. But what is there isn't matching. Oh, sorry, cat. That is matching what's needed. So if someone's presenting as homeless, potentially homeless with a disabled child, then it kind of, this is going to sound awful, but it sort of makes things more difficult, because to find any property is difficult. But then if we've got to find a property with certain things around it, then that's actually narrowing down the choice. Do you see what I mean? So when it comes to, you know, say we find a suitable temporary accommodation and they're put on the housing register so they can bid for places, unfortunately the number of places is not coming up that much anyway. But the number of places, for example, if you need a ground floor property, again, the choice is narrowed down. So it seems like sometimes the people we most want to help are the people that we can help the least, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
And so is there anything that's being done to relieve that particular pressure for that very vulnerable group, with like housing associations or building any social housing that takes all of that into account?
Well, Hackney have been quite proactive about things like that, but obviously that's decisions made by people way above me. Do you know what I mean? So they are looking at those sort of things. They are trying to build as properties where they can, but yeah, I think that would be a question you'd have to put up through higher people, really, about what the future housing provision plan is.
Who would that be to?
Who do you work for, Ella?
So I work in children's and educations.
Oh,
funded by, yeah.
Well, that's your service. That's definitely so. The lady who's over your directorate.
Jackie Burke.
Yes. So it was watching Jackie this morning on the workshop, the chief exec's workshop, roadshow. She's very aware of the limit in housing that's available. We are trying, as a matter of fact, our commissioner we are working very hard to increase our supported accommodation for those who have special needs, have multiple needs, for those who need temporary accommodation. But for our social housing, we're trying to expand our social housing as well, but that's in the Hackney Housing Directorate. So you've got the benefit support from our directorate, you've got social care support from your directorate, and then you've got housing from the Housing Directorate. All three of us are working together to try and find and build properties. There are properties being built. Woodbury Down is being all redone. New properties being built, but they're not enough, and they're not quickly enough. They're not even if we could do it, we're 5 years away from being able to make a smallest of dents. That's the horrifying story that we're having to tell people. So there's no real answer as far as if your resident is being evicted, they need to apply for homeless support. They will be given priority and accepted a main duty and be put on the housing register with a priority need to be probably receive a direct offer. But how many people are ahead of them? I would hate to tell you. It would scare you to hear the number of how many people are ahead of that family already. We are also monitoring the way we have a whole system of where we monitor properties that clients who need urgent moves and why they need urgent moves, because the ombudsman watches very closely what's going on and how people are treated. But if there's nowhere to put them, especially with young people who their support is here in Hackney, for people who can get a doctor anywhere in the country, we will remind them that they can get a doctor anywhere in the country. But those with specific connections here, they are on a very specific list as well. But there's nothing, I say nothing, such a limited amount. Last year, we were able to house in social housing not quite 500 families. 4 years ago, it was 2,000. So as you can see, that has dropped. This is sad to say, but we're waiting for people to die so we can have accessible properties. So I don't have an answer that's cut and nice and dried and easy for you, Ella, but keep your voice raising, speak to your managers and head of service. And you know, And we will continue to lobby government because the funding that we've had for that specific cohort of people has more than halved since 2017. We had a large funding, but it was all taken away. So we lost all of that funding.
I see we've got a few hands raised as well. Thank you, Ella, for that question.
Thank you for answering.
Ella, thank you for that. Sorry to be so disheartening.
John, I think you were next. I don't know if you wanted to bring someone else in. You're currently on mute, John.
Sorry. Thanks, Charlie. I was just going to, you kind of already touched on this, and you've obviously made clear that sort of getting on the housing register is not the realistic solution for most people. But I was wondering, and maybe this is a bit too complex to go into, but would you be able to speak briefly about like what the system of prioritisation actually is in terms of the housing register? Like, I think some people perhaps don't understand what that policy is. When you receive an application, how do you actually decide where they fall on the list and what the bands are, that sort of thing?
Well, our lettings policy is on our website, and we have 3 bands, A, B, and C, and then the transitional band. But the transitional band is just about ended. That was to cover those people whose family age of children was going to change to make them eligible for a different room or something. That's ending, and those people are being notified now. But we have band A, which is their housing is causing an urgent emergency situation. They will receive direct offers. Band B, not my area, but band B is for the next group and band C is for everybody else. So sorry, it is on our website. Our lettings policy is there. It's a lengthy document, but we have 3 bands. It changed in 2021 where we had lots of different bands, but that's gone. So it's those who are in urgent medical need, those who are homeless, and everybody else is really the 3 bands we have. And we are monitoring it as best we can.
Joycelyn, I think you were next. Do you want to come in? Thank you, Genevieve and Josie.
Yes, I hope I will not take you back. I just want to find out if somebody is on universal credit and he got a contract, how his rent is contracted already. He has fed into the universal credit. Now the landlord is now demanding extra money from him to top up the amount that he already contracted him to pay for his rent. And that is stressing the person a little bit. So I don't know what is the best.
So he's got a tenancy agreement with a rent.
Yes.
And the landlord's asking for more than on the tenancy agreement.
Yes.
On what grounds is the landlord asking for more?
Well, he said that's extra money he has to pay.
He can't do that without, I mean, obviously we'd have to see, you would have to know what the actual tenancy agreement is. If it's a fixed term, it depends. But generally, any rent increase has to be notified properly and outside of the fixed. So if there's a 2-year fixed term tenancy agreement, then with no break clause, then like the rent can't be increased until the end of that fixed period, and it has to be notified in writing, and they have to give at least a month's notice. So if you feel that someone's landlord is trying to illegally put their rent up without going through the proper procedures, then they should go to housing options and speak to them.
Yes, or shelter.
Or shelter. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's loads of other places out there.
Shelter will jump in that in a heartbeat.
How is shelter doing? Because there is someone from shelter here. Because I know.
Oh, there is. Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
I don't need to speak to them.
I did a presentation at.
Can I suppose the person to the shelter person here, or to help out?
And I just finished what I was saying, which was I did a presentation at Richmond Road Medical Centre, and we met a lot of people. People were coming to us. In fact, it was so busy I had to do 3 lots of presentations instead of 2 because there were just people queuing out. And a lot of people were saying that because our general voice is CAB, shelter, all these organisations, but they were saying they go to those organisations, and at the moment, because they're so oversubscribed because of the cost of living, the poverty. So I was just wondering, there is someone from Shelter here, if they're okay to talk from a minute about how things are going from their angle. I don't know if I haven't got all the names. But yeah, so I know that a lot of those organisations are under pressure as well. But yes, with yours, you could either go to Shelter or you could go to our housing options as well, or the CAB, whichever you can get a foot in the door with, I would say. Try all three.
Thank you.
Joycelyn, if you put your email in the chat, the person from Shelter, if they're not able to speak, they might be able to contact you separately as well.
Good idea.
Laura, you have your hand raised next. Do you want to come in?
Oh, did she go?
Maybe she left the
Hello,
call.
Laura.
Laura, are you still there?
You're still muted. That's it. Hi, Laura.
Typical. Thanks, Genevieve and Josie. Very useful. I had a question on an update. You know, overcrowding. We all know that the rules have changed, the kind of the outline of it. But in terms of the need for sizes of property, number of bedrooms, have you got any update on that? And then I had another question.
When you say, are you talking about the housing register or in the private rented sector?
So in general, the people that present to you, what is the demand for what they're looking for? Is it everything?
Well, the largest demand we have is 2-bed property.
2-bed.
And those are the most expensive to find in Hackney right now. But I will tell you, if you're on the housing register, the wait for a 2-bed right now is 12 years. Oh. So obviously your bed need will change. Your children will be of totally different ages by then. So again, it's not the answer. But remember that with social housing, we look at bed space versus in the private rented sector and local housing allowance rates. We look at bedrooms based on ages of children and the family makeup. So sometimes on the housing register, you'll be eligible for a 2-bed, where you in private renting, you'd be eligible for a 3-bed. We do see that.
Okay, I thought so. And that kind of brings me to my next question, because the swapping options like Home Swapper, Home Finder, we actually also come across that there are people who are willing to swap, but really struggle to do that for themselves, especially as soon as, you know, it requires a level of digital confidence. And organizations like ourselves that see these people, we work with people for a limited amount of time, and we have very limited capacity as well. Is there any consideration within the council to dedicate some support towards that in particular?
You know, that's a really good question. We are also very limited in our resources. But I would say that if they are in social housing and they are looking at Home Swapper, I would look at their their housing officer first for some support there. They may get some. I may be overstepping my bounds, but I don't know that we specifically offer that support.
I don't know if anyone's specifically allocated to help people.
Shahidul's very
Ishmael,
good.
sorry, Genevieve and Josie, just I don't want to preempt the call. Ishmael is here to talk next week about the Office for Council Tenants and Social Housing Tenants. Ishmael, are you able to, if you're able, are you able to quickly come in on this question? If not, we might be able to address it next week.
Yeah. So it's an area that we deal with partly, but we have Hackney Council have a customer service team who kind of manage the mutual exchange process. I'll cover it a little bit more next week in a bit more detail, but it would be, I would say that any resident should contact the council and speak to either the housing officer or the customer service team to see if they can try and identify properties that may be appropriate to the kind of that they want. There's no harm in asking for assistance. We don't have a fixed system for that where we match up stuff, but they may be able to point people in the right direction. So I would always say ask the housing team, contact them and see what's kind of available at that time. and they'll be able to help you out on that a little bit more. I hope that helps.
Thank you. And can I ask one last question? Since it's a little bit about timeline, so it's really helpful when you mention things also around waiting times, because for us as staff, it helps with managing expectations too. We see a lot of people that need adaptations, and where hopefully you can prevent homelessness or housing issues with dealing with that. But the timelines around just getting an OT assessment and then getting adaptations, getting the funding for it, all of that, I know it can differ per case, but it is really helpful for us to be able to have some insight.
Well, that's, you've said it right there. Every case is so different. There's very big demands on our OTs, but they stay on top of this. So depending on where they are, which group of OTs would be assigned to the case. If they're homeless and they're in TA, or we've made them an offer, we have OTs who will make assessments there. Now, how long all that takes is that stupid thing people say, how long is a piece of string? There are grants available, there is support available, but I can't tell you, I can't give you a timeline. Sorry. But if there is a situation and an OT is needed, we will need medical documentation, actually diagnoses, not, would you please help this lady by putting her in a room with a garden? That doesn't do us any good. Those aren't even considered. We need actual diagnoses.
Thank you, Laura. Those are helpful questions. I think that was the last of yours on the thank you. Tracy, you had your hand raised next. Do you want to come in?
Hi. I just wanted to ask, is there something put in place for people that are in properties that are under occupied? Because I know people that are getting elderly now, and they're in a 4-bedroom, there's one person, but they've never been approached by councils, and it would be handy if they could then speak to those people and offer them the choices of residential, sheltered, any of those, and maybe help within getting them to move. Because the person I know, they're in a 4-bedroom house. It's way too big for their needs, but just the thought of moving sort of petrifies them. But they are willing. It's a Hackney home, yeah.
Yes, well, they're probably paying a bedroom tax, and because they're under occupying the property, so they should contact Hackney Housing, right, Ishmael? About our downsizing team. I beg your pardon. They can talk to our downsizing team, because they are offering incentives to people who will downsize. Now, whether there's something available is the next question, but that's all.
I know the person's looking for housing with care because of their needs.
There is something out there now. Where it is, where they are, I don't know it. Whether there's something in Hackney available, again, the list.
There is like 14 schemes. Yeah, no, I'm
aware. But I would contact the downsizing and rehousing team, and that is also on our website.
I would just add. Yeah, no, that's all right. You're absolutely right. I would also add that they can also just speak to their housing officer, who can refer them to the downsizing team if that's their wish. It's a difficult one, because we do have a lot of tenants who we know, and we'll have those conversations. But because people, a lot of these residents have lived there a long time, and their families have grown up there and things like that, it's a detachment issue, and people don't want to leave their homes, and we don't have the authority to remove them.
I understand that.
So we do have those conversations when housing officers identify these properties, but and we will actively encourage and support where there is a desire to move, but it's a tricky one. A lot of people don't want to move.
Yeah, I understand that, but like this guy, it's costing more in care and it is a big house that he's willing to move from. So it's like I know one person or two, and there must be other people that know this, and there is a right shortage at the moment. So I just wondered if there was a procedure in place within the Hackney Council that do this.
Definitely a procedure. Downsizing team, get him to, like Ishmael said, either contact his housing officer if that's where he's more comfortable, or he can call customer service and tell them that he wants to downsize and needs a downsizing team. They'll tell him to get on it right away. If you want to support him in that, that'd be great too.
Okay, thank you.
Especially a 4-bed. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Tracy, I'll also send you the a contact that might be useful for you around this as well. Jocelyn, you've got your hand raised for another question. Do you want to come in again?
Yes, I just want to find out if somebody is being evicted from where she's living. I signposted to Greenhouse, but she was worried because she has a cat, and the landlord has given her only 1 week to leave the house.
Yes. Well, they can't give her 1 week to leave. That's against the law. He can tell her that, but she doesn't have to follow that. They've got to follow procedures. If they've evicted when the bailiff shows at the door is when she needs to leave. But knowing that he's coming, she needs to be ready. She needs to call her housing advice on 2929, get started with it. Or, well, sorry, she needs to go to the greenhouse. A cat?
Yeah, I sent her to the greenhouse, but she has a cat.
Well, the new laws that are coming with the new tenancy agreements, it's not law yet, but they cannot, supposedly they can't refuse somebody because they have a pet. Doesn't mean they have to accept you either.
This is the landlords, isn't it?
Yeah. Landlords are very picky about cats because they're known for, the things cats do. That's something she's got to deal with. She want to sleep on the streets, or does she want her cat? Maybe she can find someone to hold her cat for a while till she gets herself sorted. Those are her decisions. But sorry, yes, she needs to go through the greenhouse.
Thank you.
I think there are some places that will take, and I know there was a place that took dogs in while people were homeless, and they could go and see their dogs as much as they wanted, but they were cared for. Maybe not homeless, maybe when they just moved on. There are some charities out there that will help with those things, but again, it's a really difficult thing because I've got cats and I love cats, and then I think I'm saying things to people that if they were saying it to me, I know how it would feel, but it's horrible. But if you've got a cat, then it might be more difficult to find somewhere to live. That's just the real world, unfortunately.
See what I mean? Isn't she lovely?
I'm an old bag, really.
Thank you.
Great questions, guys. Thank you so much.
There was
somebody from Hackney was saying, somebody from Shelter posted something, didn't he?
Yeah, I think she was.
Hi, yes, it was me.
Yes.
It
was really noisy where I am.
Sorry,
but the noise has dissipated now, so I can open up my microphone. So I just basically said we are accepting referrals. Obviously, we do have a criteria for referrals. We can't accept every single referral that we receive, unfortunately, because we receive a massive amount of referrals every single day. But if the client is in Hackney, then you can email them. I popped the email address in the chat a bit further up, but it's just Hackney Advice, all one word, at shelter.org.uk. And then it will be triaged, and then we'll get back to you to let you know whether we can take on that referral or not. But I mean, if it's something like disrepair, for example, we would expect the client to have taken steps to try and resolve that disrepair first of all. And then obviously if they're not getting anywhere, then we can step in. But we generally don't step in if the person hasn't tried to take action themselves on any of the issues.
Great, Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing. And obviously,
thumbs up on that, Tracy, because that's a lot of my tenancy sustainment is getting people to, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done that? No. Okay. you got to do that. I'll help you do it. But, you know, they've got to start the ball rolling themselves as well.
Yeah, I think we are kind of like moving in the direction of just trying to empower people to help themselves instead of doing for them. Because obviously that's no good, because if they face that same issue in the future, then they're back in the same cycle of not knowing how to resolve it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big message, like you, Tracy, that I give out, is trying to empower people to do it themselves. So I will stop short of doing everything for them and make them do a bit themselves. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's just things like, also when people come to us, they're registered as homeless, we can use an incentive to find, you know, to secure them a property. You know, we do expect people who can to go out and have a look themselves to see if they can find somewhere that's suitable and affordable, not just wait for us to do it, because we're just, you know, it's as difficult for us as it is for them. If they're doing it as well, we've got more chance. And it's good, like you said, you learn things that way, don't you?
Also, we are offering workshops for professionals as well. It's only for like smaller grassroots organizations. So potentially there may be some organizations here who would be eligible for those workshops. And it's really basically to kind of also empower support workers who work with clients who are coming to them to say, I've got disrepair, I'm overcrowded, to kind of just be able to assist them and answer their questions without referring to us. Because a lot of the times, yes, technically people are overcrowded, but unfortunately they're not statutory overcrowded, so there's not really much that we can do to resolve that situation. So we provide workshops to kind of empower organizations to recognize when it's an overcrowded issue to send to us, or whether it's an overcrowded issue, but unfortunately you kind of have to just stick it out until you get something else. So if that's something that any organizations here would be interested in finding more about, then you can drop me an email. My manager's on leave for the next week, but once she's back, then I can run it past her and she'll get in touch with you.
Great, Tracy.
Tracy,
Great.
could we advertise that offer on the newsletter? Because there are lots of small organisations that are on the newsletter John sends out that I'm sure would be interested in that training. Or maybe you can speak to your manager and let us know.
Yeah, I'll speak to my manager once she's back. I think she's back not next week, the week after. So I'll speak to her once she's back, and then I'll get back to you and let you know. But I can't see it being an issue, because obviously we want organisations to be able to feel confident in answering like basic questions that their service users may have around disrepair, around overcrowding, around things like that, so they don't have to refer to us. So then that allows us to pick up referrals that we can really kind of like make a difference in, if you like. So that's the main reason for us offering these workshops. So we do them in disrepair, overcrowding, evictions. There's a couple of other topics that I've forgotten, but if you email me, and then I can let you know.
I think there's some interest in the chat already there, Tracy. So if you got your email back, I think you'll get a few people asking about that.
If you don't email the Hackney advice email that I put in there, because that's really just for referrals, I'll put in my personal email, and then I'll collate everyone who's interested and speak to my manager once she's back off of leave.
Cheers, Tracy. Thank you. I wondered if we still had Ume on the call, who'd be willing to talk about the UC transition.
Hello, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, fantastic. Apologies,
Hi.
my camera isn't working, but I hope to speak more on this topic on the 22nd of February. I think I'm scheduled to just come in and give a short presentation on it, but it would be great if I could just say a few words on it now. So as has been mentioned earlier, the move to UC has been happening for a while. Last year we had we're still kind of continuing with working tax credit customers being moved on to UC, and as you all may know, the move to UC is taking place through one of 3 different tracks into UC, and the routeway into universal credit is crucial, because that will dictate what you may or may not be entitled to when it comes to your financial package on universal credit. For example, we know that from our estimated models, out of the 2.6 million people still remaining on legacy benefits as of maybe a year and a half ago, you've got a portion of those who will kind of be receiving the same amount whilst on UC. About 1.4 million of those will be receiving more on UC, and then you've got the remainder portion, which is I think around a third, that will possibly receive less on universal credit unless they move into universal credit through a specific routeway, through a specific migration track. And so the migration tracks are as follows, really briefly. You've got natural migration. So if there's a natural change of circumstance, you just move over to UC, and that's always been the case since 2013. You've got the voluntary track into UC for those who have done better off calculations and have seen that they will be better off. They are likely to voluntarily move into UC, so that's fine. But then crucially, for those who are worse off, what they need to do is wait until they get an invitation by way of a migration notice letter. And because they need to access universal credit via the managed migration. And it's because it's only through this route and following these instructions into UC that you access something called transitional protection. And it's that transitional protection which will ensure that you get the top up on your universal credit amount every month, just to ensure that you're not getting a lower amount than what you did on legacy benefits. So what we need to do as partners around the table is ensure that this messaging gets through to customers, that customers aren't misinformed about jumping onto universal credit too hastily, or and also kind of informed about the nature of universal credit and the kind of help and support available in the way we work at the job centres to support customers in order to kind of get closer to the labour market, because we appreciate that different people have different experiences and perceptions and even trust about universal credit, about the benefit system. So just really looking to work closely with partners to ensure that we get messaging correct around the move to UC. And quite importantly, at this moment, we have concrete timelines as to when the next batch of legacy claimants will be moved onto universal credit. So as you know, it was only been those on working tax credits that have been moved over so far. But the plan going forward, what we know at the moment, is that from April onwards, it will be those on housing benefit with tax credits that will be moved on. And then housing benefit only claimants from June, they will be receiving migration notices. And then you've got other benefits like employment support allowance only and employment support allowance with housing benefit. They'll be moved much later, potentially 2026 and beyond, because that's the group where most of our kind of more complex customers are. And it's really important that we take as much learning as we can from our more, quote, straightforward customers and apply it to support and help our more vulnerable customers. And even the sequence in which the move is happening and the timing has been heavily informed via discovery phases that DWP has run, of which we've got the findings published and I can share with partners. And these discovery phases have shown things like a lot of people wait until quite close to deadline to make the move to UC. A lot of people appreciated having a dedicated telephone line, of which there is, to call for help. Those also we found quite interestingly, although not surprisingly, applications to move to UC would increase whenever we'd send out the reminders to move to UC. So there'd always be like a peak whenever a text message would go through to customers. Also, for customers that we know where there's a vulnerability and we haven't heard anything from these customers, they're in ostrich mode, they've gone off the radar, there are lots of safety mechanisms in place to ensure that they're not missed. So we arrange for our advanced customer service leads to get involved, home visits, all of this support, just to ensure that we don't miss those who would otherwise end up in a worse situation. But of course, how effective we are does depend on how much we know. So I think this is another reason why we're really keen to connect with partners to ensure that we're all kind of, just in touch with each other, not only in relation to having a firm understanding of the move to UC with crystal clarity, but also having a fast track line of communication between all of us so we can address queries in a timely manner, as I know that's an issue. Of course, we're all busy, but we really do need to nail that communication point. I'm working with Hackney colleagues at the moment to come up with a plan. We're working together to come up with a plan in order to ensure comms is clear, that we're working together properly. So really happy and willing and open to take any feedback. constructive, negative, positive, helpful, please do approach myself or my colleagues, any suggestions that you have, because ultimately we all want the same thing. We want to move all of our Hackney customers on legacy benefits into UC as smooth a way as possible, in a way that empowers them once they're finally on UC, and they can have access to the broad spectrum of kind of offers and provisions and other kind of support we have available. So we're just in that phase, that movement phase. It's uncertain, but hopefully we can kind of decrease any painful points that will inevitably arise if we kind of all stay on the same hymn sheet. I'll speak more in a more detailed manner about this in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm happy to bring in specific findings from the discovery phase as well, if that would be useful for partners. But for now, I'm happy to take any questions, or also just to receive any observations or comments anyone may have.
Thanks for that taster, Ume. One question from Ella in the chat is just, where's the best landing page for the information around this right now? Sheedle has shared a link, but is there any other kind of spaces where this information is public?
Yeah, there are. Thank you so much for that question. There is, Shahida will know we had to wait quite a while for DWP Central Comms to get their act together and put together public comms. We do have a detailed gov.uk page with detailed stats, and we also have more kind of user-friendly info. I will send both links out to Jenny and John to distribute to the group.
Cheers, Ume.
I'll also include it when I talk in more detail in a couple of weeks' time.
Amazing. Thank you for that taster. Shahida, I know you got hand raised, but we had some questions from the previous speakers. Like Ben, maybe you can come back afterwards if that's all right. Titalaya, you had a question for Genevieve and Josie. Are you still on the call? Do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering if residents wants to move out of Borough to maybe outside London or less expensive Borough. Is there any advice or support that can help those residents? I actually have a resident who is living in an overcrowded property, and they're considering moving out of the Borough. So they're gonna need advice, maybe even financial support to get them a place in their desired borough. So how can they go about that?
Well, that's a good question. If they are facing overcrowding, obviously they can always approach housing advice for that, for housing advice. If they have a receiving borough in mind, if they're homeless, they're eligible for financial support from the borough. If they are not homeless, they can apply for discretionary housing benefit housing support if they're already on housing benefit or the housing element of universal credit, but it won't be through our homeless team if they are not homeless. So the advice they get, I would suggest that they read as much as possible, learn about the community they want to go to. I would also go to Citizens Advice, get an appointment with them, because they may also want to speak to the Citizens Advice in the receiving borough. Is it far away from London?
They're actually thinking about Blackburn. So that's
how far is that?
Really far away.
Oh, okay.
Quite a long way, yeah.
If they're probably thinking of going there because they have some family or
families,
friends.
Absolutely, yeah.
Their family can probably help them with looking up, finding perhaps, there's always the national websites, Rightmove, Zoopla, where they can look to see what the market holds as far as properties based on how many bedrooms they need, how much the rent is. If they're considering moving there, but they don't have any income, they're going to face the same challenges. So, are they moving there because they have employment, or they're going to live with friends till they find employment? All of these things, these factors will impact what their choices may be. But I would start with housing advice.
Okay, thank you, Genevieve.
Sure.
Going all over the shop the last few questions, apologies. Joycelyn, I can see you had a question for Tracy from Shelter. Do you want to come in on that? I think it was around how long you might have to wait for a referral once you send it. What's the wait time for a referral to Shelter? Tracy, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, I can't say how long it would take for the the initial response to the referral, it really depends on how many referrals we're receiving that week. Usually the wait time for an appointment, though, once a referral has been received, is around 2 to 3 weeks.
Cheers, thank you, Tracy. Joyce, does that answer the question for you?
Obviously, if the person is experiencing an emergency situation, which we would generally say they're going to be homeless, they're either currently homeless or they're going to be homeless within the next 72 hours, then you can call our office line and speak to one of our duty managers on the day. If we have capacity, then potentially it would be referred to an advisor. If we don't have capacity, it's usually referred to our helpline.
Yeah, Charles, what I was asking is, if we send referral to shelter, how long it takes them to respond, whether they will take it on board or not?
Well, as I said, there is a criteria that we expect all referrals to meet if we're going to accept that referral and for the person to get allocated to an advisor. So it really depends on the individual case and how busy the service is. So there isn't a specific time that I can tell you, yes, we'll receive a referral, we'll get back to you within 72 hours, because it really depends on our capacity.
Yeah,
but you will receive a response, and then if we are accepting that referral, usually the wait time for an appointment is 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Cheers, Tracy. And sorry, Shahido, I cut you off earlier. Do you want to come in?
I was just going to say thanks to Ume, because I know I sent her lots of emails, and she's like tried her best and to get back to every single one. So I'm just going to say thank you, Ume.
Oh, thanks, Shadow.
Thank you, everyone. Do we have any more questions for our brilliant speakers today? Any more in the chat? We've got 8 minutes left to have a more generic conversation, but I wonder if there are any more burning questions. Jenny.
I don't have a burning question. I just wanted to say a really big thanks. I know I put it in the chat, Josie and Genevieve and Ume as well, but I think it's so helpful. You know, there's lots of information online, there's lots of things, but it can be so hard to make sense of when you don't know the language and the pathways. And that really centering that document's really helpful in centering what the situation is with the resident, working backwards rather than a lot of our information I think we might present in a way that the service understands, but that is much harder when you're on the ground and you've only got 2 or 3 minutes or to figure out what you're going to do about it. So really appreciate it. It's such a challenge, but also really appreciate those of you who've made time to come to the session to understand the complex reality, as hard as it is, because we know that you're doing this because you're going above and beyond for residents, and it's just brilliant to have shelter on the line, housing management on the line, housing benefits needed on the line, and community partners on the line, because I think this is as I think this session's demonstrated, and DWP, it's demonstrated that all of this is interconnected, isn't it? And yet we're dealing with, it's all sort of divided up separately, but people's lives don't work like that. And so just really appreciate all the massive efforts of all of you in supporting residents through this really challenging time. And I hope you'll let people know about the session, share the recording. And we will certainly take away the recording and all of the questions that you've asked that were harder to answer, ones relating to what our long-term housing strategy are or what we might be able to do differently, because your ideas are the ones that really are worth exploring, because you know what's most likely to be helpful to you and the residents you're working with. So thank you so much.
Oh, just to say thanks to everyone for listening to us, and like I said, I wish I had a magic wand to make it all go away and be nice and fluffy, but it isn't. So we've just got to do the best we can. And these meetings mean a lot. It's really great hearing everyone else's input and, the questions and that, sometimes we can't answer them, but, I really think it helps for us all to understand what each other do. There's Laura Picken on here. We work together quite a bit and we help each other out a lot. These sort of connections are really, these connections are really important. So anyway, I've got to go, but thanks everyone for listening.
Cheers, Josie. Thank you so much.
Bye. No worries. Thank you.
John,
trying to log off. You won't log me off. Bye.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for coming along, and yeah, big thanks to Genevieve and Josie. Just in terms of the session on the 22nd, which is the next one, that'll be with Ishmael, who's one of the area housing managers. So we'll be able to go into more depth about the questions for people who actually are in social housing. So sort of the other side of the coin, if you like. And I think, I don't know if Ume's still on the call, but we actually had Ume booked in for the 7th of March.
That's fine too.
Brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, just to flag that for people on the call so they don't come along expecting that next time. But yeah, massive thanks to everyone. And yeah, I don't know if anyone's got anything more to add, but if not, we can probably wrap up. And massive thanks to Charlie as well for facilitating, seeing as my Wi-Fi's been all over the place today.
Jonat's housing is my favourite thing. I couldn't stop myself.
Brilliant.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.